Walking through the pain of a broken heart? Then tune in to Mystic Radio with Rob and Alexis. If you are a widow, navigating loss, or curious about mediumship, join them. Experience live on-air connections between clairvoyant medium Rob and Alexis and her deceased husband, Bob, alongside somatic practitioner and healing guide, Mary Stephenson. Download the KKNW app Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific or find them on your favorite podcast platform. And let this show help you heal.
Welcome to Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis.
And I'm Bob Wardenero, Robin's husband and producer of Mystic Radio, which is an experience, not an explanation.
Clearing energy for the show.
Welcome back to Mystic Radio with Spirit Lady Robin Alexis. I am Robin Alexis. You just heard my husband's voice. It is a recording because I am a widow now. Our show was on for almost 20 years, and Bob always produced the show impeccably. Since I am a clairvoyant medium, I asked Bob what the theme of the show was today, and he said, "The tragedy of a man's life is what dies inside of him while he lives." That's a quote from Henry David Thoreau. And Bob and I experienced together him having a very conscious death. And it's the first time that I remember having that type of experience with him. I do know I was with Bob in many, many lifetimes in many, many different roles, but as husband and wife, for me to be with him as he took his last breath and watched his spirit leave his body, it's a very different experience. And Bob came to me before he crossed over, and then certainly after he crossed over, and said that he wanted me to get out to as many people as possible what our experience had been to try to make it easier for other people. So in a sense, Bob and I were like virgins for the very first time experiencing a conscious death with each other. And so it was excruciating in a lot of ways, and you will be hearing about that on the show. It is the reason why I invited co-host Mary Stephenson to be with me on the show so that she could help me not only cope with my new reality as a widow, but also walk the path of being a grieving widow and a clairvoyant medium at the same time. It is a lot to hold. So welcome, Mary Stephenson, back to Mystic Radio.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much for being so brave and courageous so early in your process, and just for the listeners to share, I am a somatic practitioner and a healing guide. And in the context of widowhood and deep loss, it really means that I have a process that I take people through to begin to work with the nervous system and understand that where these patterns of deep grief and loss actually live in the body as well. And my goal is always to help people become more embodied, not to know that these feelings are going to go away immediately. That's not the goal, but it's really to work with these feelings of deep loss and grief and untangle, the connection that's the beauty of being in relationship with somebody during their life. And of course, Robin, you and Bob shared such an extraordinary 25 years. I think it was 25 years.
We were going on 26, and we were very proud of it. I was Bob's fourth wife, and the three wives combined didn't make it to 5 years with him.
Wow. Oh, wow. That feels like a podcast all in itself.
And I was married before being married to Bob too. And we actually, before we even met, we both said we will never do that again. And then we did, which we can talk about further down the road. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there, that there's some trauma.
Amazing.
Yeah, a lot of trauma from previous relationships got dragged as baggage into our marriage. That's for sure.
Well, there's so much to unpack here, but the consideration of being with somebody's nervous system
Mhm.
for 25 years and the intricacies of that. And, your metaphysical understanding of this is that when suddenly somebody gets taken from your life, the shock of the neurobiology is real. And not only is the shock of that, but there's the experience of any trauma that happened in the relationship between the two of you, or the patterns, we'll just call them patterns of connection, and all of those dynamics that sometimes we didn't even know were going on. Then the body is left to unwind that and to make sense of it. And that's to be present with it. And that's a
Mhm.
big part of what I want to do with you, and we are doing together. So,
And I did want to do it on the show. We mentioned on the first show, but I'm going to say it again. Mystic Radio was always about when the callers called in and I would work with them. The caller was known as a surrogate healer, meaning that other people who were listening, if they were willing, would also receive a healing. So I do invite other people, whether you're a widow, a widower, or you were in a long-term partnership and you lost your partner, or any type of grief, perhaps you can experience some sort of relief as you listen and process right along with us. And like Mary said, there's so many moments that need to be looked at that just stunned and shocked and almost calcified, disassociated me in this process with Bob. So I don't even know quite where to begin. Mary, you've been hearing, on the show already various stories and themes. Where do you think we should start today as my practitioner uh, to help me heal
yeah.
with this?
Well, the first place we're going to start and is to really become present in the body and to learn two tools that are very important to excavating the experience so that it can be looked at. And so really the first thing is to make sure you're sitting on your chair. And to the listeners as well, you can practice along with us. So just finding yourself seated on the chair and feeling your feet anchored in the ground and bringing an awareness to the body and then bringing some breath into it. So I'm going to invite you to breathe deeply through your lower belly and breathe in through your nose. And we're going to do just a quick breath of 6 counts in through the nose. We're going to hold it at the top for 3, and then we're going to exhale for 7. So I will do that now. Breathing in through your nose for 6, and then holding, and then exhaling through the mouth. And as you try that again, Robin, I'll just educate the listeners that this is the opportunity for us to signal to the nervous system that there's safety. And one of the things that Robin and I are doing on this show is we are building an invisible support system. We're building kind of a metaphysical hammock, a comfort space, so Robin's nervous system can come here with my nervous system. And together we can be present to what wants to be seen and witnessed and excavated slowly over time. And Bob, of course, leading the way with this quote, Robin. And I'm curious, tapping into the body right now, what do you notice being most alive for you in your body, and where do you notice it?
Well, first of all, it was a profound experience to become aware of my breath and move into my body. And the first thing I that came up for me is that I realized I'm breathing alone.
Yeah,
Like I was breathing with Bob, no matter where he was. I mean, we were basically home together 24/7
yeah,
because that's just how we chose to experience our marriage and our work together. But to realize consciously that he's not breathing anymore
right.
and that, I'm breathing by myself, it was really a lot. So can we just start there?
Yeah, absolutely, honey. I want you to put your both of your hands on your upper chest and put a little bit of pressure there.
Okay.
And we're gonna breathe again together. We're breathing in through our nose and exhaling through the mouth.
I'm really feeling how much I miss him.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the body thawing out, right? In the moments where we understand that this has been a tragedy, right? The body itself is not understanding completely what has happened. And we want to just be with her. I want to be with her and be with the younger versions of yourself, right? That are taking this moment and maybe feeling, am I safe? Am I safe to be on my own? Am I safe to breathe here and just open up? And what we want her to know is that she is safe. And that, interestingly, the people on the radio, even though they haven't listened to this in this moment, they're going to bring in their support as well as they practice breathing with us. And I want
I
you
could
to
feel that. Yeah, it was always like that with Mystic Radio. It was like a family. And Mary, this is shocking to me. I experienced, the loss of my daughter at a, she was only 13 days old and I was 23 years old at the time. And the shock of leaving her was completely different than this. I can't say I ever became aware of that she wasn't breathing, like with me. And when my parents died or if my friends died, it was completely different than this experience uh, with Bob and the breath. So I guess that was because we were together so much.
because
And
nervous
it,
systems were intertwined for
oh,
sure.
okay, okay.
That
So Mary, is my nervous system still intertwined with Bob's as if he's still alive?
yes.
Okay, that's what it feels like right now. That's what I'm aware of. And yet I can see him in spirit. It's so confusing.
Yeah. And this part of, the grief that grief is trauma, any trauma, the word trauma is also overused, but any emotion and deep experience that we go through, whether it be um, fear or loss or grief or anger, these are expressions that the body needs in order to release energies that are, like, in a sense, trapped, or releasing the story that we have about something so that we can continue the story in a new way. And that is the work that you and I are doing, so that we can help you move this experience from being confusing in the body to actually releasing that, so that the experience continues in spirit, but that you're free to start breathing on your own, and that feels like a reset, a resilient reset for you. So I'm gonna stop us right now because we're gonna have to take a little bit of a break. But when we come back, we'll hear how your body is responding to this conversation and seeing what the next steps are in releasing some of that stuck energy. And thank you, Robin, so much. And stay tuned. We'll be right back with Mystic Radio.
If you are ready to find a pathway back to an embodied experience of healing and inner truth, you don't have to walk alone. Mary Stephenson is a somatic practitioner and healing guide who can help you. Receive a special rate of $100 off your first session using the code MYSTIC by visiting her site, marystephenson.com/coaching. That's Stevenson, spelled STEPHENSON.com/coaching. Your space to heal is waiting.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga, we cover the world of animals. This week, July 26th, it's an encore presentation. Tune in to hear our last energy balancing show with best bioenergetic synchronization technique and energy codes practitioner Linda Rasmussen. We took phone calls, worked with a caller and her dogs, talked about how to stay cool. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
And we're back with Mystic Radio and Robin, Alexis, and Bob and Spirit, and we are unpacking the experience of the nervous system as the nervous system begins to learn what is actually it's been contending with in a sense. And I'm not trying to other your nervous system from you, Robin. You're not separate. But there is a place where humans tend to have their mind running in one direction, right? And not maybe be fully integrated with what's happening in the body. And that's what we're bringing together today is the mind and the spirit and the physical body. So I want you to tell the listeners, I guess, what are you noticing right now in our process?
Well, first of all, I'm hearing from Bob again, and he's bringing up the quote he brought up at the first half of the show, which is a quote by Henry David Thoreau. And Bob was saying that the theme of this show is the tragedy of a man's life is what dies inside of him while he lives. And Bob and I had a lot of challenge in our relationship. And the challenge was we both brought to the table a diagnosis of complex post-traumatic stress disorder or syndrome. And so he had it and I had it, which meant that when I got triggered into it, he would start having it. And if he got triggered, then it would trigger mine. And then we were kind of at each other's throats. So we would go to therapy to kind of unbind this dysfunctional entanglement of our nervous systems. So I think the reason why Bob brought up this particular quote is because we would often say to each other, you know, we're loving each other the best way we know how, but we both were kind of damaged, right? And we knew it and we talked about it and we tried to process it. And it wasn't pretty all the time, but we both stuck to it. And now we're still obviously in relationship. He's not in a body, I am, and but I'm relating to him when you brought me into my body with my breath, the awareness of I'm not breathing with him, but also the awareness that my nervous system still thinks his nervous system is here and it's entangled in the dysfunction of trauma. So
Yeah.
can you help me unbind that so I can have a relationship with him where he is now?
Yes. And I'm thank you for sharing that. And I want to just make real that most all humans have trauma from their childhoods. You know, there's a different gradation, right? Obviously, some people grew up in very unsafe environments and some people less so. But trauma is a common denominator across humanity. So we just normalize that for people listening. And the impact of that is that depending on how you related to your caregivers as a young girl, Robin, that and any relationships, your prior marriage, for example, that there's, the responses of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn that get built into the nervous system. And when one nervous system that is, to your point, compromised meets another compromised nervous system, then that dance continues. And so the work that we're doing is to really free your nervous system, not just so it can have a relationship with Bob and Spirit, because that's going to continue, but maybe for the first time in your life, my throat's closing up, for the first time in your life, is for you to start living in a body that is free to be loved and loving to itself from your higher self and freed from that pattern, right? That reinforced pattern that has been going on for a very long time. Kind of, we'll call it that was intermittently reinforced. And
Mm.
that's what happens with PTSD. And there's a dynamic where the one person might trigger you and then the nervous system gets activated and there might be an altercation, that there's something that's not right. But then we look for that same nervous system to bring us calm, right? To bring us the dopamine and oxytocin, right? So that you need that other nervous system back and forth in order to feel alive. And I think that's exactly what this quote is all about.
Well, what Bob is sharing now is something I never understood that he did. He's telling us that what died inside of him was music. When Bob was a little boy, not only did he always want to grow up and work in radio, but he wanted to play the violin. And when he told his dad he wanted to play the violin, his dad bought him a trumpet. And Bob didn't like the trumpet, and so he just gave it up, and he gave up, being a musician for pleasure or for profession altogether. And then through our radio show, Bob and I met Robert Coxon, who is a world famous musician, just an absolutely wonderful human being. Robert Coxon created a piece of music that is on the website robinalexis.com specifically for me that represents the sounds that he heard from my soul. So anyway, one time, Robert Coxon and his partner Lily were here. We'd had dinner and we were sitting in front of the wood stove as we often did together. And Bob was telling Robert the story about his father and the violin. And Robert said, "Well, why don't you get a violin now?" And Bob was like, "Oh, yes, I could get a violin now, couldn't I?" And Robert was like really encouraging him. And yeah, Bob was going to get a violin and he was going to, you know, go on YouTube or get a violin teacher. And I was so excited for Bob because he was finally going to get his violin. And this was sometime in January. Bob's birthday was in February. So for Bob's birthday, I bought him a violin. And I thought he was going to be so happy. And when he opened that violin, that was the maddest Bob ever got at me, was for giving him the violin. And I just didn't understand it. I was like, "You told Robert you wanted a violin. You told Robert you were not going to let your childhood dream of playing the violin stop you. You were going to take lessons." And Bob was like, "Well, I didn't tell the truth." And I was like, "Well, I didn't know you weren't telling the truth. I thought you really wanted to play the violin." And Bob never forgave me for buying him that violin. And even after he died, I was like, the only thing that Bob gave away before he died was the violin. And he would often say, "Geez, if I die before you, you've got so much stuff to get rid of," because he did collect stuff. And I never understood it. But now I do. What Bob was saying is it died inside of him.
Yeah.
That's the tragedy. And that's like where the PTSD came from. And his pattern, when his PTSD got triggered, like the whole violin thing, he became aggressive and kind of mean, to be honest with you. And I just didn't get it. And I would become really passive or
Mhm.
I would retreat.
Yeah.
And so, Mary, what can you do with this?
Well, the first thing for trauma healing is to recognize the pattern. So this is half the work.
Okay.
While we see this pattern playing out, right? So his aggressiveness and of course your experience in your early part of life may have mirrored that. You may have also seen other people towards you be slightly aggressive.
Oh,
And so that
slightly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, aggressive, let's just call that out. And so
Yes.
your nervous system was trained for that, Robin,
Ah, okay.
right? So then there was the meeting Bob was like, "Oh, there you are, so I can continue my pattern."
I see.
Not because the pattern's wrong, but because the goal of the soul is to work. In order to get rid of a pattern, we have to be in the pattern and respond differently. So that's what
Okay.
we're going to do right now. We're just going to be in that pattern for a moment. And I'm in it with you because I can feel that in my body. So I want you to just again put your feet on the floor and I want you to close your eyes and tap into the body where you're noticing the sensation. Tell me where you find the sensation of this story.
It's about 3 inches below my navel.
Hmm. Okay. So we're going to bring the breath there. Going to bring our
Okay.
breath in and release.
Mary, I'm starting to shake and I'm going to breathe differently, which often happens when my nervous system is resetting. So I don't want to startle you or the audience, but usually when my body go, okay, I'm going to start doing it.
Do whatever you have to do to release this energy. And I'm also going to bring in the violet flame. So for those who are listening, the violet flame is a very high level healing um, plasma energy, and it can be brought in through, your imagination. You bring it in through the crown chakra. So we're going to ask the violet flame to come in through the crown chakra. and bring it all the way down to Robin's 3 inches below her navel, and just wrap that beautiful violet flame around her counterclockwise. And I'm going to breathe it in and release. We can feel it coming out of the throat chakra as well, and breathing out. And for the audience, I want you to understand that, when I, as a healer, am with a client, I am creating the container for healing to happen, but the client is actually healing themselves. And this is true for you and anybody else, any listening. So Robin is a healer. So especially when two healers come together, the pace and the pitch and the tone of the healing can happen rather quickly. So we'll breathe in again, and then we'll release. And Robin, before we come to the end of the show, I'd love for you to share if there's anything that wants to be said about this particular.
Many powerful things. First of all, 3 inches below my navel, where it looked like it had a butt plug in it. It's all open and there's white light. And I'm feeling Bob joining me in this freed up space. And he's showing me that where he is now, he has a violin and he is studying to play the violin. So although it took his death to allow his soul to feel the freedom to relax, to still play music, so he didn't stop. And he wanted me to go through this process with him so that I could see that he did change, he did receive, he is allowing himself to experience the violin. And I am joining him energetically in playing the violin. And he's encouraging me to dance because I always danced. I would dance at home. I would dance with my hands. I would dance with my hands in the car. And it was just a thing with us that he would watch me do that. And then when we moved to Mount Shasta, my whole energy shut down because he wanted to move here. It was his place. My place was on the ocean, but I just couldn't move. And he's like, Robin, I'm playing the violin. It's time for you to dance. And so anyone listening, anything that you've stifled, anything that is your tragedy, where something inside of you died, Bob is inviting you to let it live. So he is with the violin. I am going to dance. And whatever it is you can do to let yourself live, do that. And that is how that Bob and I are closing Mystic Radio. How do you want to close Mystic Radio for today, Mary?
I just want to tell you my heart feels burst open. And I want to just make sure that everybody grounds and that my energy stays with me and your energy stays with you. And we thank the audience for being here. And until next time, that's a wrap for Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis. And we'll see you soon.
You've been listening to Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis. Are you a widow or grieving a deep loss? Are you curious about mediumship? Then this show is for you. Join clairvoyant medium Robin Alexis as she speaks live on the air with her deceased husband, Bob, while being supported by somatic practitioner and healing guide, Mary Stephenson. Download the KKNW app Fridays at 8 a.m. Pacific or listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If you are suffering from a broken heart, let this show help you heal yourself.